because Laulani is the one who taught me about Kanawai Mamalahoi, and after 2 years I can say that.
Yeah, I really want to thank everybody who's put on this LaborFest. This is really awesome, and mahalo nui to Roxanne and Noel for being here. I really, really loved what you both had to share. Some of the things that really struck me in that and in what Rich just said and where it all comes together, I feel, for me anyway, as someone who's involved in a lot of different kinds of struggles here, but especially the ones that go way, way back. As Roxanne was talking about, those fights against colonization, and she mentioned in 1992 the celebration of Columbus. It being that big anniversary, and that was the first year that I participated in a march in San Francisco of thousands of people against that colonization, and first had the sense of how big a movement there is, and how many different kinds of peoples there are who are able to come together. And there weren't just indigenous peoples in the march, but there were all kinds of people whose basic message is that things need to be set right, and they need to be set right from where they went wrong in the first place, as far as we can go to correct that wrong. I was there actually for the International People's Tribunal that year, that was also held there because that was the year that my mentor, Kauai Puna Prajin, passed away, and that was his work, was to make a tribunal here, which we held next year with Dr. Kikuni Blaisdell. And so anyway, and with that background, I think that the whole idea of labor and coming together really has to do with the whole idea that we as people are trying to make something that's better for all of us, all of us together. And it may seem very simple, but we can see that around us there are many people who don't necessarily, or many forces I should say, that don't necessarily agree with that. And overcoming those forces is the labor, the work that we have in front of us. So I think that is very important. As a Kanaka Maoli, native person from here, when I hear Roxanne, Dr. Ortiz's speak, when I hear her speak about the Great Sioux Nation Treaty that was broken and what it takes for those hundreds of people to go in and stand there and say, this is wrong. That is truly labor. It's a labor of love. Just as it is to stand for workers, to stand against the injustice of the hotel owners who are exploiting them when they sweep the floor, just as it is for teachers to stand up and say, we need to be able to actually teach these students and not just comply with endless, ridiculous paperwork. Just like it is for just about everyone who makes that labor a labor of love. And in our concept, labor of aloha. Aloha, as we, I think, need to recall, being the currency of this land. And that's very, very important. That traditionally and to this day, we have a currency that is stronger than the dollar. And that currency is aloha. And it's very serious. That was the medium of exchange, not paper, not coins, not barter, but aloha is the way that we have always run the economy here. And it still continues to exist, even despite all of the changes, all of the colonization, all of the oppression that we all face. And when we return to that, and when we allow that to flow as it should, then we will be able to labor as a work of love. And in being able to do that, we are able to love that work. And that's how it should be. And Dr. Kent also said that ultimately this is about our quality of life. What we do to work is really only part of the big picture that we have here of making a life that we love. And I see many faces here who have put a lot of work into doing just that, and over many, many years. And I want to mahalo everyone for that. Also with what Rich was saying about deoccupy, I want to reemphasize that as well, because I am a supporter of that movement too, and as Rich was saying, it can be quite confusing, especially the whole idea of using a word like occupy in an occupied land, from day one. I think actually that's how we met each other. We were in a fight over that. He was the right
side of the fight.
Actually, I was saying, no, just let him use it, and he was like, no, you can't do that. but anyway, it's and it's been a long journey since then. But truly, that is a great example to me of a work of love. No money involved. They run a free cafe there, by the way, which if anybody wants to either visit or donate to, feel free to, please. And every week, feed the houseless regularly, and not just the houseless, but anybody. That's the point. People going to the art museum, houseless people, whoever comes by can play music, can eat, and really, even though that may be a kind of strange thing in some ways, that's really very close to what we have practiced forever. And it's a really good start to making something that actually works. So, mahalo nui. I really, really enjoyed what these wonderful people have to say.
Okay, so now we're going to open it up and have an open forum. Any questions, comments from the audience? I'm not sure if the mic is going to reach all the way, so if not, then I'll go ahead and start here, and then, this one might. Oh, that one might. Yeah, that's true.
Professor Kent was mentioning about going on the offensive, and I'm thinking that actually the first offensive already happened. It was was called the Arab Spring. It was basically labor movements that had gotten larger and larger. And I'm wondering, can you really take any warnings and any hopeful signs of the Arab Spring that will apply to future events in the United States or in other parts of the world?
I wish my colleague Brahim was here. He's the expert in the Arab world. I mean, I think what happened in Egypt is, it's sui generis in the sense of Egyptian culture, but I think we have, maybe it tells us that even with the best intentions, people's movements can be corrupted, can be overthrown, and basically authoritarian forces use those people's movements to come back in power. Because what's happened in Egypt is, from my mind, is an absolute catastrophe. I mean, we now have a military government in power which is even more vicious and brutal than the regime that Mubarak ran for all those years. And not only has he destroyed the Muslims, the Muslim League, but he's also destroyed was destroying the process of destroying liberal and democratic opposition, which are the people we would probably identify with in Egypt at this time. So I'm not sure what it tells us, because maybe perhaps our own political culture here is so different. But when we look at NSA surveillance, when we look at the sorts of technological mechanisms that are available to the state, we're not talking about the nanny state or the social state. We're talking about the military state and the homeland security state. Maybe that's a warning that we need to be very careful in terms of the fact that repression, even in democratic societies, can come down very quickly. Very quickly.
My name is Raymond Katanya. I'm from Kauai, and all you guys had very important things to say. Ms. LaborFest, I think it's very important what you said, is that labor has an obligation to support the cultures and the movements of indigenous peoples. It is a requirement. It is important. Tomorrow night, I'll be talking about that as well. How I participated in a movement to stop sacred sites from being destroyed in Wainuaka Island of Kauai. And I got arrested there along with a good friend of mine. And I think it's tantamount for the labor movement to support the culture of the indigenous people. Or else we're not going to be worth jack shit, as far as I'm concerned. I think there's one union though that does support the struggles of indigenous peoples, the struggles of Kanaka Maoli, that's Local 5. At least they pay some attention to it. They joined the struggle against the PLDC. And I think they were critical with that union and the IKEA movement sticking it to Abercrombie, giving them a big kick in the ass and defeating that movement. Now, I don't know if very many of you know this, but the first real communist organizers were Kanaka Maoli, Maxie Weisbart, and Harry Komoku. And in this book that I got here, all of you should get your hands on it. It's called Fighting in Paradise, Labor Unions, Racism, and Communists in the Making of Modern Hawaii. Both of these individuals were seamen, and they went around the world, and they began to see the struggle as a global one against capitalism. And they were some of the greatest organizers. These Kanakas were some of the greatest organizers we have ever had. Harry Komoku organized the docks in Hilo and helped to get the Longshore Union started. And the Longshore Union had a lot of, the Longshore Union was started by Reds, by the Communist Party, and even from, it had a lot of influence from the IWW. The IWW, the slogan, an injury to one is an injury to all, was popularized by the ILW, but it was first started by the IWW. Now the thing is back in 1934, the Communist Party, in its convention, I believe in Milwaukee, supported independence of the Kanaka Nation from the United States, which was eventually discarded and disbanded by the communists. And I remember years back having big arguments with a very nice person by the name of John Reinecke, who felt that when my friends and I had formed Kuku Hawaii and we had occupied Kalama Valley for over 30 days, he felt that our movement of raising Hawaiian issues was very divisive, and we told him no. It's the role and responsibility for revolutionaries and labor activists to support the Kanaka, even to the point of nationhood. And I think it's important that labor radicals understand the situation facing not just Kanaka, but all indigenous peoples around the world. And it's really important that we do try to understand the rights of nature. The rights of nature, if we take care of nature, nature is going to take care of us. Now that's a little bit different perspective than most labor unions have. But for myself as a labor unionist, and I ran for pretty much my whole life since I was 16, 17 years old, I think it's really important that we, as revolutionaries and progressive people, support the Kanakas here and indigenous peoples around the world. At the same time, we have to raise the bar on the class struggle. And we have to let nationalists know that there's nothing wrong with the workers' movement. The nationalists have to understand that the great majority of Hawaiians are working class people as well. So two of the greatest movements in Hawaii are the workers' movement and the movement of the indigenous peoples. And come tomorrow, we can talk about this kind of stuff too. I have a lot of stuff to share, a lot of information. I put together some literature that I gathered over the years, and it's really important that we talk about the connection between the Kanaka movement and the labor movement, and we raise the bar, that we start thinking about destroying capitalism and bringing in a new world, a classless society, where we, the working class, run the show.
Yes.
Thank you. I really appreciate what you had to say. I wanted to say that in some ways we've gone backwards. The labor movements, for instance, in the Andes were led by communists, and they were the rank and file and leadership were almost all Quechua and Amarai Indians. And of course in Bolivia today is led by a working class hero who's also Amarai, Evo Morales, who put forth in the United Nations resolution for the rights of Mother Earth, which passed. It's now a UN resolution. I also in the IWW, this an injury to one is an injury to all was created by Frank Little, who's a Cherokee Indian from Oklahoma, and was killed in Butte. There's a very good film, I don't know if you've seen it, called Injury to One, about Frank Little in Butte. It's excellent, you can get it online. But we've also gone backwards since the 60s and 70s when the United Mine Workers and the operating engineers came to the Southwest and made arrangements with the Navajo nations that if they became union members in the work, the industry in that area, that their package would include their medicine and their health package. So the United Mine Workers are actually allowing for Navajo medicine to be included in their labor package. A lot of people don't know about this. And I was down there at the time. It was just an amazing thing. And the Navajos organized in their chapters. They have 72 chapters, which is their legislative system. So their union locals were the same as their chapter houses. was a wonderful democratic labor movement, and this is all cut off. And I think some of those moves toward labor and indigenous people and immigration with the United Farm Workers is one of the reasons, for many other reasons, to crush the labor movement, because the powers that be know very well the potential of the labor movement, and when all those forces are united together, it's unbeatable.
Well, I just wanted to say one thing about the homeless that we have and the houseless. The thing is that there is a huge category of homeless, and these are the one half of indigenous Hawaiians who have to live on the mainland. And we should not forget. So they are homeless. They might have a house over there, but they're homeless. They're not at their home. And it's important to remember that. The other thing that, and then switching from that to the labor movement, one of the things that troubles me is that Richard Trump, the head of our AFL-CIO, cannot say the word working class. It's middle class. Listen, 80% of us, at least, are working class. We're employee class. I've had a TV program now called Employees Today for 20 years here. And, but the thing is that we have to remember that the working class is the people's class. It's a democracy class. And that is what is going to ultimately triumph in the world, is full democracy. Everybody's politically equal, with an equal education, and equal access to information you need to be a citizen. One voice that can be heard, like on public access television, which we have in Olelo, and the other is one equal vote that actually counts, and that corporations are not persons, and their money, huge money, is destroying any democracy that we have in this country now. We have a corporatocracy. And the freedom struggle of today in the United States is between democracy and corporatocracy.
I just wanted to really quick say something to what Jim was saying. And by the way, this is Jim Brewer, who is, who's been around for a very, very long time fighting these things awesomely. So mahalo, Jim. To the point about homelessness, it's a very good point. And one of the things that the words that we're using more and more is displaced persons, because it's not, people are not necessarily homeless if they are living in a tent, and they're not necessarily even houseless because that tent is their house, but they're displaced. And so are those people in the continent who have been forced to move, and so are a lot of the people who have come here, the veterans who are out on the street are displaced, no matter where they come from. And those sacred sites that need protection, so sacred things are being displaced as well. And I think that that's something that we need to consider, that what we need to do is integrate all of the things that need to be integrated, the people, the strengths, the spirit, the land, everything into something that's pono. That's what pono is, and to stop the displacement, overall, the displacement of workers, the displacement of people, the displacement of where energy and money should flow, everything. So mahalo, Jim.
Yes,
This Monday, I was over at the movie museum, down the street over there, and there was a movie about the documented effects of GMOs, the documented negative effects of GMOs. And, Roxanne Dunbar or TC talked about the need to work together. And my husband Jim always says, we need things that unite us, so that we can fight something from a common perspective. And if the idea began to form in my mind that, that GMO issue is a natural. The Hawaiian movement, it's going to kill our island, right? That all that GMO proliferating throughout the island. The ordinary person wants healthy, locally grown food, and that's not what we're going to get with this GMO. IKEA, the union initiated, group. This is a natural for them to kick Monsanto out and to take agriculture here to a more, sustainable, local, organic level. The ordinary person can see this issue as something that they would like to see pushed forward. So it seems to me that particular issue is something that many groups on the island can get together and fight together on from your all different, the Hawaiian for the land, common people for food security, that people can fight, and the labor unions kick out the corporatocracy, I wish somebody would take it up. Thank you.
I just wanted to disagree about the question of, I hope this isn't too esoteric, but the question of nationalism, and maybe give a little bit more of a anarchist-y sort of left Marxist perspective, or maybe you don't need to label it. But, and I don't think other people here necessarily disagree with this, but when I look at the movements, state movements from the left even, whether it's the Bolsheviks or the Evo Morales or Hugo Chavez, I still see a class divide in those states, and I still see miners being oppressed, people going on strikes, and getting ripped off and exploited, now in the name of socialism or something, And so I just wanted to put that out there, that I'm not really down for a state solution, and I think that a lot of what the Wobblies did was they were willing to look beyond borders and nations, and they would organize anyone, Chinese people, Mexican immigrants coming in, and it didn't matter to them. So people would say they're taking our jobs, and they'd say, well, let's organize them too. Let's organize everybody. And so it's this idea of internationalism, not in the way Richard Pearl or Obama would use it, but of a solidarity across all nations. And so, just wanted to throw that in there. Who wants to say something next? Yeah, go ahead.
I think I want to agree by disagree or something like that. I don't know. The anarchist movement actually, if it can be called a movement, a herd of cats can be called a movement. I'm in it. I'm a member, so I know whereof I speak. Could really actually learn a lot, and does learn a lot. I've witnessed this learning from indigenous struggles and indigenous conceptions of sovereignty that are not necessarily nation-based in the sense of a state.
I agree.
And that conversation needs to happen more and more. I was talking with Professor Ortiz this morning about Laulani and I and a couple of other people were interviewed on an anarchist radio show by Kealani Kalanui. I don't know. You can look up her show. It's on Wesleyan's radio station. But anyway, Kealani asked me, so how do you reconcile anarchism with the Hawaiian nationalist struggle? And I stumbled around and said, well, I don't. I'm actually kind of a pragmatist on the matter, is that I'm working with people who are fighting for getting the U.S. out of North America and out of Hawaii, but that the situation after that, I hadn't really thought about that much. And Laulani actually came in and talked about a Hawaiian version of sovereignty that doesn't really depend on a nation state for its legitimacy or for being put into action. And it's actually something that we as communities and people working together, not alone, it's not an individualist thing, can affect without waiting for the state or without waiting for capitalism to fall, or we can do it right now, actually. And by kind of claiming our sovereignty to do what's best and what's right. So I think there's a lot more I can learn about anarchism from indigenous notions of sovereignty that aren't based on the nation, and so I'd like to hear more about that.
I think the operative word really that we need to all embrace is self-determination, and not get bogged down with the state or anarchism or communism or socialism, but self-determination, that peoples decide who they're going to be and how they're going to be. And if they want a state, I support that. So I think telling peoples who, what they should do and should not do, is correct or not, is exactly what colonialists do. What is the civilized thing to do? It's just a new version of it. It's like you should do this and you should do that. And all these things are processes. What's taking place in Bolivia and the Andes is a long process of a movement towards socialism, indigenous socialism. The Constitution there is the most amazing. People written by consensus over a 2-year period of time. So I think as U.S. Americans, we have to really be cautious about judging and saying people should do this and people should do that, because that's what the U.S. always does to everyone. So for indigenous peoples, I think simply to support the right to self-determination, get behind those struggles, and not try to tell people what they should do or not.
I'm not sure I agree. I don't think that that everybody can have self-determination. I think that would result in a sort of chaos around the world. It would be absolutely unstable. Well, we do live in chaos now, but I think that would be I think you have to look at it on a case basis. I think that can be really, it could be really insane if everybody, everywhere wants to suddenly opt out of the nation state. I think one of the things I'm thinking about also is that I think as never before our democratic rights as citizens are really at risk at this point in this country. Not only the NSA, the surveillance, the technologies they have, the cameras, their ability to monitor millions and millions of messages, emails, Twitter, everything. And if we can talk about building socialism, okay, that's fine, and building social democracy, whatever we're talking about, but we also need to be really vigilant at this point in history about protecting our democratic rights and what's left of them, because there are very powerful forces that would like to take that away from us, and the security establishment, and using the whole notion of security and dangers to us to really attack whether it's indigenous movements or democratic or movements for social justice. So I think that's something that we need to be conscious of. I mean, they have weapons now, and I don't mean to sound paranoid, but they really have weapons to destroy our privacy or destroy any kind of ability for us to communicate, and we need to be aware of that. We need to fight back as much as possible. That's all I wanted to say. Let's pay attention to what these people would like to do to us, and without being paranoid, but just understanding there are forces out there that would really be interested in instituting some degree of repression.
Just because you're not paranoid doesn't mean you're not following.
I'm going to turn the mic over to a comment, but I wanted to make one of my own briefly. As an Indigenous woman, and also I was talking to Roxanne a little bit earlier today, that I've had a lot of experiences in northern New Mexico and southern Colorado and here, and listening to dialogue, and I mean, you hear honor your kupuna, honor your ancestors, and I believe that's true, that's an important thing to do. But then I also think of my father, who was in meat packing union, and my father was also in the steelworkers union, and he was also in the governmental workers union, and my grandfather, who was in unions. And that is part of me honoring my kupuna, honoring my ancestors, and honoring the fact that you know, all their hard work that they did has resulted in, you know, working 80 hours a week, although I still do that anyway. But, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that.
I'm going to try to summarize some of the discussions that have been on and try to focal it to Hawaii. Renee talked about GMOs, which is really important. We also talked about the ILWU and, you know, how that socialist movement in Hawaii, how, you know, that's tied into the history. Well, a lot of people don't understand that when the sugar plantations, pineapple plantations went under, big corporations came in and they started doing GMO crops. So a lot of the people that you're talking that are now in the GMO business are ILWU people. That's why you don't see a lot of labor union people in this group, because it's corporate control of their jobs. Okay? Now, I myself work for the federal government. I'm a union official in the industry, and it's the same way. They control you by how much money they put in your pocket and whether you can survive. What needs to be done is we need to have a living wage. We need to make corporations pay that living wage. Every time we talk about minimum wage in Hawaii, they come out and they say, well, it's going to destroy small business. Well, corporations are what's destroying small business. So we need to have a two-tier system where small businesses, you pay regular wage, but if you're a corporation, you got to be full-time and you got to be paying a living wage in Hawaii. That's the goal. That's what we need to push for. GMO, very important. We need everybody to realize what kind of food they're eating and why. We are fooled by companies like Walmart, who basically say, hey, I can get it cheaper. It doesn't matter if it's not good for you. It's basically based on, it's cheaper, so you buy from us. We pay our people nothing. One of the guys that lives with me, Chris Smith, is an occupied person. He has a nice website. You should look at it. It's in Facebook. It's our Walmart. And it's really good website. It talks about all the things that Walmart does bad. But getting the public to get involved in social issues is very difficult because they're working 2 to 3 jobs and they can't afford to come down to a meeting like this. They don't have the money. They have to go out and work every day. So when talk about all the indigenous things and all the social programs and everything, I think people need to look at where the wages are coming from We need to look at things like modular housing and decentralizing electrical systems so you can live off the grid. You don't have to be tied to things. These are the things that need to be concentrated because that's what's going to bring people into labor.
I would say that I think we have a living wage in San Francisco, and that struggle was very unifying in terms of all sectors of people, because everyone is affected by low wages. So I think that is a unifying demand.
I just wanted to ask, you mentioned fighting back against the invasion of privacy, and I don't really know what to do. I avoided Facebook so far. I try not to sign up for anything, and it's too late. I got Google has me. I'm just wondering what else. What fight back? How?
If I can give a little bit of a shot at that, I think that a lot of people here know me. If you didn't know me before, you probably know me from Facebook. And so, you know, obviously I've kind of bought that one. People very much have a reason to be afraid, because there's a lot going on. And I think there are people who are in this room right now who could probably tell you about some really interesting surveillance that's been happening lately involving lasers and drones, that have been working in Honolulu. And you want to say something about it?
I guess there were 2 flights of one drone 2 times in the last 4 days. I believe over Thomas Square, maybe 5 days.
And they had the green LiDAR.
Green light went kind of spiraled over the Art Academy and over the housing around the Art Academy, and then kind of made the loop. The scanner was able to pick up the extremely wide range, like scan your whole body, everything. So.
Yeah. Now, this is a LiDAR laser, which is supposed to be not harmful, and it's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers doing, you know, basically high resolution mapping. That's all great and everything. Of course, the question is, what else is going on, right? And what do we have to worry about when all of this is going on? You know, we already know that a cell phone is a communication device, but you know, it can also be used as a tracking device. Sure, Facebook, you know, there I am posting the revolution up on Facebook, you know, and those things are reality. But just as protesters have come out in order to fight anything, you know, people who've stood up for anything, their rights as workers, the protection of sacred places that they love, whatever the case may be, in order to do so, we need to get through the fear, and we need to stand up and say, hey, if you're gonna come and track me, here's what I'm doing, and here's why. You know, because there's a world out there that needs to see it, needs to hear it, and if there's a government that's also seeing and hearing it, my feeling is there's a point at which we need to say, okay, that may be happening, they may be powerful, they may have the guns, but we're gonna do it anyway because that is the only way. That is the only way, by us standing together and standing up for one another, that we are gonna win.
Well, we're going to have Ray Catania speak, and then we'll turn it over to Roxanne, and then actually it'll be 9 p.m. So we have plenty of food. We're going to have a book signing. We're going to have book signing at the end, and then there's plenty of food, so we're encouraging everyone to please take food. We have lots of rice and things left over, so I'm going to give it to
I want to encourage everybody to come tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about the GMO issue on Kauai and the big march we had, about 4,000 people that came out, and how we got unions involved, to get a working class perspective, because some of the vegans get a tendency to, when we talk about organic, and they don't like talk about working class issues. And we got to fight to go beyond that, and that is a hell of an irritant to me, because some of these guys feel that the struggle began only when they came here 10, 15 years ago, and they deny the history of our brothers and sisters who fought huge labor battles against the capitalists. Now, you brought up some very good stuff, and I think what you're saying is key. I think the major issue for the working class, where the working class people are going to move, is around wages and pay. And I'm really into that too, but at the same time, I take up these other issues because I want to make sure that we get a working class perspective in these issues. But like I know at home, my wife, she don't give a crap about the anti-GMO issue or that I got arrested in Wailua. All she worried about is her damn paycheck, And she worked 2 jobs. And my daughters, they work, they work 2 jobs each too, in retail and restaurant and stuff like that. They're working hard. So they're not really concerned about daddy's issues Daddy, shut up about the class struggle. What about my paycheck? You know what I mean? I try to draw the correlation, but they don't listen. But the thing is that working class people will move around these kinds of things, and we got to be cognizant about that too. And I know Local 5 does that, and they'll shut down a street, to make sure the workers get representation. In fact, they are organizing workers with a class perspective, understanding the nature of capitalism. And they're doing a real good job about that. All the other unions are way behind. I'm with the very, very moderate Hawaii Government Employees Association. I'm probably the only blue-collar guy in a white-collar union. And those guys are so goddamn conservative, but yet, that's my union, And I gotta fight with them too, because I get on pension and I get on medical for life because of the HGA. And the reason why is because we got Chapter 89. Chapter 89 guarantees that all public workers are going to be represented by public worker unions. And the capitalists are going to want to get rid of that pretty soon. So that's going to be an important fight. But I do understand what you're saying, brother, about wages and pay and stuff, because I think we got to move on that kind of stuff as well. At the same time, I think we got to let working class people understand too that we live in Hawaii, that the ocean and the land is very damn important to us. I'm a fisherman, I grow things in my yard. I eat kamungai and paria and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm into, And so the land and the water and the ocean and the mountains are very, very important to us guys. So we cannot forget that. We cannot just say pay, working conditions, and union stuff. We gotta bring them all together, because what we want to do is that we want to create a new world. We want to create a world where we don't have exploitation and where we understand and live with the environment in a beautiful way. They sound like a bunch of crap to a lot of you guys, but that's what I believe.
Good, yeah, it's working. Well, I just have a very short thing to say about the security system and paranoia. I guess being maybe the oldest person here, I went through an era of surveillance that didn't depend on drones or any of the technology today, and I can't see that it's any worse now than COINTELPRO was in the 1960s and 70s. And I was certainly one of the victims of it, and the organization I was with, the American Indian Movement, was crushed by it, destroyed by it. The Black Panther Party, the Young Lords, probably the militants in the labor movement. We haven't even researched that yet. The women's movement. So it does. But what destroyed us was not COINTELPRO. It was our paranoia. Because we bought the kinds of things that provocateurs and informers worked among us. And we have to build a level of trust among ourselves so that we don't believe some stray rumor about someone. And this, that's how I think, I do think we have to fight it, but we have to fight it in ourselves. We can't really change that technology as it is. We couldn't change in fact, we didn't even know about COINTELPRO until it was way into the 1970s. Then we knew what we had experienced, but as we were experiencing it, Black Panthers killed each other, American Indian Movement people killed each other, Young Lords killed each other, drugs were brought in. So this is what we have to do, is learn from that, read about it, go to Freedom Archives, watch the film COINTELPRO 101, and it applies now. Whatever the method is, it goes back to the 19th century, to the Bolsheviks, it's nothing new. The state is going to try to stop revolution. We should accept that. And then build our movements on trust and mutuality and strength, and that is the best antidote to this kind of surveillance.
Okay, so it's 9 o'clock. So we're actually going to ask the authors to sit at the table with the books, and we'll have a book signing if you've purchased a book or if you'd like to purchase a book. We're going to have a seat at this table. And then we're going to actually start cleaning up the food, and we need to be out as far as Mark's garage by 9:30 p.m. So thank you so much for coming, and we hope you can make it tomorrow at 3 p.m. We're also going to have food tomorrow afternoon, and we have Joe Burns and Ray Catania tomorrow afternoon. So we really hope you guys can make it. It's going to be a great, thank you so much for coming tonight. Hello. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to come over and get my book.
It's been wonderful to get to know
This is a song that was written after a very long period and a very long walk up a very long, hot road. Kalava Valley, to be specific. But it really applies to all kinds of struggles. So whatever we do, we just gotta keep on keeping on.
Thank you on behalf of the impromptu band.
This little tune has been written for a dear friend Benji. Well, I get this shot. There's no bird class like me. There's modern and hot day of night. My civil rights, but it's always the same old story. The rich face of the cloud, and when we look at they're all and I say, fire the rangers and politicians, fire the bureaucrats too, fire the fires, make up the rules and it's no one on them but yeah, no one on them but everybody out there, fire the rangers and politicians, fire the bureaucrats too, fire the fires, make up the rules and it's no one on them but yeah, no one on them but now the system is bent and the money's all spent for pension but never the workers are taxed while the rich relax with every moment's reflection. Where there's grass, there's mop, they don't give up because we're broke out against their inspection. And I say, fire the gangsters and politicians, fire the bureaucrats too, fire the bloggers and more of the rules and more on the buggers. Yeah, more on the buggers.
This is supporting increasing the wage. It's like a 7.25 for 6 or 7 years. They built to 9.25. And so far, the legislature has been like an EW member? Or? Yes. All right.
Now all you good people crashing down there, don't give up your struggle for justice. Well, I spend my time on the line. These days I show my concern. My motor is within a 10. And I say, fire the gangsters and politicians, fire the bureaucrats too. Fire the buggers and make up the rules and ignore one of them buggers. Yeah, ignore one of them buggers. Hey, fire the gangsters and politicians, fire the bureaucrats too. Fire the buggers and make up the rules and ignore one of them buggers. Yeah, ignore one of them buggers.
Drop us the line. Yeah, I'm
And you're I know